The sights and sounds at Arlington National Cemetery today. This is where the family of a Wicomico County soldier gathered to say their last goodbye. Good evening. I'm Paul Butler.
And I'm Steve Hammond. Welcome to WBOC News at 6.
Yeah, a Wicomico County man is honored with a military funeral today.
Sergeant Major Wardell Turner laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery. He served more than 20 years. He was killed in action in Afghanistan back in November. WBOC's Chris Weimer joins us live via satellite now from Arlington National Cemetery. And Chris, it's always an emotional and moving sight, a funeral with full military honors.
Steve, today's service was a powerful one. The U.S. Army honoring Sergeant Major Wardell Turner with an incredible and touching ceremony.
Tonight on WBOC News at 6.
I'm Paul Butler.
And I'm Steve Hammond. Tonight we have multiple crews covering the inauguration of a new Maryland governor.
I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
to
the state of Maryland.
To the state of Maryland.
The 62nd governor of Maryland sworn in on a snowy day. Governor Larry Hogan takes the oath of office and promises to grow business in Maryland and create a bipartisan atmosphere.
People from Delmarva stood in the crowd today to watch the Republican governor begin his term. We get their thoughts on the inauguration.
A swearing in with a bang. The reason for today's 19-gun salute.
The snow is ending, but we may see some more before long. I'll show you why coming up.
Now, WBOC News at 6, Delmarva's news leader.
A historic day, a historic moment.
I believe that the time has come to cast aside the status quo and to come together to build a better future for our state and all our citizens.
Only the third Republican governor in the last 48 years in Maryland takes the oath of office. Good evening. I'm Paul Butler.
And I'm Steve Hammond. Welcome to WBOC News at 6 o'clock.
It is Inauguration Day. Maryland's 62nd governor is officially on the job tonight, starting a new political era in the state.
Governor Larry Hogan sworn in this afternoon, as was his Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford. WBOC's Bill Mitch has spent the day at the inaugural ceremonies in Annapolis. He joins us live via satellite. Bill, a long, exciting day. Let's start at the beginning.
Well, Steve, at the beginning, people began to find their way here as early as 9 a.m. to get their seat for the ceremony. And it was at 9 a.m. when the Maryland Army National Guard Band began to play. It was just a short time later when the big names began to arrive. It was shortly before 11 a.m. when New Jersey Governor Chris Christie arrived at the State House in Maryland. A few moments later, Maryland's next governor, Larry Hogan, arrived with his wife, Yumi, and made his way to the Senate chamber. Inside the chamber, new Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford was sworn into office, and then it was time for Hogan.
To the state of Maryland.
To the state of Maryland.
Then things moved outside, and as people took their places, the snow began to fall, and it would not stop for the entire ceremony. Hogan once again was sworn in, this time in front of the crowd gathered outside to witness some Maryland history.
The office of governor.
Execute the office of governor.
According to the Constitution.
According to the Constitution.
For the people in attendance from the Eastern Shore, they say this was a day they couldn't miss, and the cold winter weather was not going to drive them away.
Typically, I don't come out in this weather, but it's really quite beautiful, and I think it just added to how special the day is.
It's just a great day. It's a great day for Maryland, a great day to be a Marylander, and a great day to be from the Eastern Shore.
With the snow setting a memorable scene Wednesday, Larry Hogan was sworn into office, becoming only the 6th Republican governor of Maryland in the last century. The celebrations are not over for Hogan, as there's a formal gala tonight in Baltimore, as well as another celebration Saturday in Cambridge. Live in Annapolis, I'm Bill Mitch for WBOC News.
All right, Bill, thanks very much. Good job out there. A long day in Annapolis. After his swearing in, Governor Hogan gave his inaugural address.
Yeah, the new governor hit hard on topics like bipartisanship, and he spoke about strengthening the middle class and growing business.
Maryland has an educated workforce, world-class universities and colleges, great community colleges and public schools. We have the beautiful Chesapeake Bay, the Port of Baltimore, and a great location in the heart of the Mid-Atlantic region. We must leverage these amazing assets to transform Maryland into a place where businesses can flourish and create more jobs and more opportunities for our citizens. Starting today, let me say loudly and clearly, Maryland is open for business.
Now, just before Hogan took the podium, his new number 2 man now addressed the crowd.
Right, Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford spoke about his time on the campaign trail.
We met countless women and men from all walks of life. However, too often we heard that they felt forgotten, that they wanted a government that would live within its means, that took less money out of their pockets and borrowed less against theirs and their children's future. Well, we've heard that, and we've heard you, and we have not forgotten.
As we watch the snow falling there, a lot of people enduring the snow, taking in the event to hear from the new governor and lieutenant governor. What a beautiful scene it was in Annapolis today. Included out there, lawmakers from the Eastern Shore and WBOC's Tyler Butler, who spoke with a number of those legislators. He joins us now live from Annapolis. Tyler, the message of bipartisanship really resonated with quite a few members of the Eastern Shore delegation.
Steve, as we heard in this speech earlier today, there wasn't really any direct mentions of what Hogan's policies will be moving forward, but nobody here seemed bothered by that. They were excited about this bipartisan pep rally and hope that this momentum will continue through the next 4 years. The message from Governor Larry Hogan is clear.
Today is not the beginning of an era of divided government. Today is the beginning of a new spirit of bipartisan cooperation in Annapolis.
It's an important message from this Republican governor as he begins to work with a state house controlled by the Democrats. But members of the Eastern Shore delegation say they agree with Governor Hogan's message and hope to carry it forward.
The message was incredible, talking about Change Maryland, but talking about how we really need to work together. We have historic pioneers who've gone before us and really working together, you know, recognizing our vast diversity.
The message that he was sending about coming together, bipartisanship, the economy, regulations, he got a standing ovation when he said, let's get the government out of your back pocket so you can control more of your own money. That idea was clearly something that was very popular this afternoon.
Governor Hogan had always, the number of times I've met him, demonstrated his willingness to listen, to be an open mind, to look at issues that matter and then take a good approach to it.
Although everyone here recognizes there will be arguments, they're still hoping this spirit of cooperation will continue on into the next 4 years. Now, we couldn't catch up with Delegate Cherie Sample Hughes or Senator Jim Mathias in the crowd today to see what the Democratic legislators from the Shore thought about this speech, but over the past week they've echoed much the same sentiments that were in that speech, that both parties need to work together to make Maryland all that it can be. Reporting live in Annapolis, Tyler Butler, WBOC News.
All right, Tyler, thank you very much. Now, one of the more interesting parts of today's inauguration was the 19-gun salute. Now, that salute is reserved for the Vice President, visiting heads of states and state governors. The 21-gun salute is reserved for the President.
A little bit later on in the broadcast, my sit-down interview with former Maryland Republican Governor Bob Ehrlich, who has some interesting insight, a man who's been in Hogan's position, a Republican having to deal with a Democratic General Assembly.
And posted right now on WBOC.com, I spoke to Governor Hogan one-on-one and found out why, as a young man, he knew politics might be in his future. And he talks about the most defining moment as his life as a senior in high school. All that and more on Web Extra. Go to our website, WBOC.com, and click on the story near the right side of the page. Well, the weather made sure it got some attention amidst all of today's inaugural events, as you saw during the governor and lieutenant governor speeches. And on the drive back from today's inauguration, this is what things look like on Route 50 in Talbot County. And on the northern half of the peninsula, snow was falling near Legislative Hall in Dover. A little past 4 this afternoon, state police had reports of more than 33 crashes from the C&D Canal down to Frederica. Now, for an update on current road conditions, we go to Chief Meteorologist Dan Satterfield. Dan?
That's right. If you draw a line from, say, Easton over to Milton, north of that, there is some snow on the roads, an inch or two. To the south of that, the road's mainly just wet. And if you look at the radar right now, there's some good news. The snow is just about over with. As a matter of fact, it has ended. There's a little bit of light rain here across eastern portions of Midshore. That's moving on by as well, and the snow has ended now across northern Delmarva. It's moving rapidly now out into the Atlantic, and skies will begin to clear tomorrow. Temperatures below freezing, though, from Easton to just north of Georgetown. Centerville at 27 with snow on the ground across Queen Anne County right now. Overnight, the precipitation tapers off, the low at 30. We'll stay dry until Saturday morning. The weekend, though, not looking good, and there may be more snow coming. We'll tell you all about that coming up.
All right, Dan, thanks very much. In Delaware, almost 15,000 bags of heroin seized during a traffic stop. Police call it a large bust, and many addiction experts say this is just the latest example of a statewide epidemic. Our Sussex County Bureau Chief Evan Kozlov joins us now live from the Bureau. And now, Evan, this happened in Milton.
Yeah, and we don't know where the New Jersey driver started his trip, and frankly, we don't know where he was planning to deliver the heroin. However, this arrest has many wondering how often these large shipments are entering the area. Just take a look at how much heroin we're talking about. 14,994 bags. That weighs about 225 grams. Street value of this is about $150,000. And police say this man, 32-year-old Devon Tucker of New Jersey, was delivering the stash. This all happened just after 2 on Tuesday, right here on Coastal Highway. Police say they pulled Tucker over for speeding just south of Route 16, and during the traffic stop, they say they smelled marijuana in the car. After a search of the trunk, they found the heroin. But this heroin problem goes far beyond just this case in Milton. Mark Richmond from the Delaware Department of Health and Social Services says just over 15 people a month are dying of drug overdoses in Delaware. And the number of people seeking treatment at public facilities for heroin addiction has skyrocketed by more than 50% in just 3 years. It's affecting all walks of life, he said. It's not a white problem, it's not a black problem, not a male problem, not a woman problem. It's everywhere.
That's extraordinary. 15,000 bags is a lot of heroin.
And here at Addiction Medical Solutions, a rehab clinic in Rehoboth Beach, Anthony Powell says he's seen the problem grow. They average about 170 patients every day.
Having that stopped, those 15,000 bags stopped, doesn't put a dent in the problem, unfortunately. You have the problem with supply and demand. You know, there's a big demand down here and the supply just keeps coming and coming, which is increasing the demand now.
Another bust and an ongoing problem that continues to grow in Delaware. Now, I spoke with a Delaware drug enforcement agent. He said he wanted to remain anonymous because he is undercover, but he tells me that it's average to have maybe 3 shipments like this one each week in the county. From the Sussex County Bureau, Evan Kozlov, WBOC News. Back to you guys.
All right, Evan, thank you. Good news for WBOC viewers in Talbot, Queen Anne's, and Kent counties in Maryland. As we mentioned yesterday at 6, WBOC and all of its local and CBS network programming is back on Atlantic Broadband for customers in those counties. WBOC and Atlantic Broadband have reached a long-term accord. Atlantic Broadband Vice President Sam McGill says, quote, the strong feedback we received spoke to the importance of this station in the local community. Atlantic Broadband has roughly 12,500 subscribers in Talbot, Queen Anne's, and Kent counties in Maryland. Well, as we heard and saw, a snowy day across Maryland. Here's a look at the snowfall in Delaware as well. In Milton, Dan says he expects about a ½ an inch of snow in Sussex County. He updates us on other snow accumulations. That's coming up.
And a Sussex County road many say is already too congested, could see even more traffic. What residents along Old Landing Road have to say about the possibility of more homes and more cars. That's coming up next. But first, people, places, our history.
WBOC is proud to serve all of Delmarva. Here's meteorologist Mike Litzniak.
Tonight on WBOC News at 6.
I'm Steve Hammond.
And I'm Paul Butler. We're covering all of Delmarva tonight. A list of child sex offenders released in Worcester County, the 21 people arrested and where they live.
A glimpse into what's ahead on Delmarva. Governor Jack Markell shares his priorities for Delaware in 2015, and new Maryland Governor Larry Hogan outlines the state budget.
In Caroline County, a high school ring lost and found in Vietnam. The reunion between 2 vets as a Federalsburg man returns the ring to its rightful owner.
In Sussex County, a quicker way to New Jersey, why zipping over a potential Cape May Lewis bridge won't happen anytime soon.
We'll see sunshine on Friday, but the weekend is a far different story. Get ready for a real soaking. I'll show you when the rain starts coming up.
Now, WBOC News at 6, Delmarva's news leader.
Each of these men caught by police, a long investigation ends with a long list of child sex offenders across Delmarva. Good evening. I'm Paul Butler.
And I'm Steve Hammond. Welcome to WBOC News at 6.
Now, over 20 people arrested in connection with sex crimes against children. Today, their names were released in Worcester County. Now, WBOC's Chris Weimer joins us in the Newsplex tonight. And Chris, the long list of names is the result of an extensive investigation.
Paul, the Worcester County Sheriff's Office is on the hunt through a special partnership with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. That hunt has paid off.
Worcester County sheriffs say the list of child predators is long.
Jason Gregory Root, Jose Cana Lopez, Richard Lee Malloy.
21 names, 21 men, all of them caught red-handed by what the Worcester County Sheriff's Office is calling Operation Worcester Safety Net. On Thursday morning, their names were read and the stories of how they were captured shared with the public.
They're hunting in Worcester County, and they're hunting for our children.
Detective Corporal Kagan was at the center of the more than year-long investigation, oftentimes posing as an underage child. A child preyed upon by men online and via text messages.
I think the safety of children is the most important thing.
Not all of these men face solicitation charges. Some were caught in possession of and or distributing child pornography. Jerry Nolte lives in Snow Hill. He says hearing about 21 men listed for sex crimes against children disturbs him.
We feel very safe here, and seeing something like this kind of makes you question that a little bit.
The sheriff's office won't call it an epidemic, but does say that an area like Worcester County has a very transient population because of seasonal places like Ocean City. And while it won't reveal precise details as to how these 21 men were investigated, it says it wants the public to know these investigations are taking place.
If this helps keep some people from doing that, then so be it. But if not, we will catch you.
The Sheriff's Office says the work isn't over. It's also asking anyone with any information about child sex abuse to contact them. For the full list of those named this morning, you can get that now on WBOC.com.
Chris Weimer, thank you very much. Well, he's been called every parent's worst nightmare, but now Harry Roche of Millsboro is going to prison for a long time. The U.S. Attorney Charles Oberle made that worst nightmare statement about the 44-year-old Roche, who's been sentenced to 35 years behind bars on child pornography charges. Now, prosecutors say Roche collected and distributed hundreds of extremely graphic photos and videos depicting adult men with young boys. Harry Roche could have been sentenced to life in prison, but ended up with 35 years in Delaware.
Getting right down to work, Maryland's new governor gave an outline of his budget today and plans for closing a $750 million deficit for the next fiscal year. The actual budget won't be made public until tomorrow, but among the highlights released today, Larry Hogan continuing the 2% across-the-board cuts for all state agencies in Maryland that was put in place last month by Governor Martin O'Malley. Hogan points out there will be no layoffs or furloughs. The plan does fully fund school construction, but it does cut funds dedicated for parts of the state where education costs more. Hogan says the so-called Geographical Cost of Education Index is being cut in half to save roughly $68 million. Again, more details tomorrow. On the subject of jobs and the Maryland economy, we heard Larry Hogan say this yesterday.
We must leverage these amazing assets to transform Maryland into a place where businesses can flourish and create more jobs and more opportunities for our citizens. Starting today, let me say loudly and clearly, Maryland is open for business.
And Delaware is open for business as well, as we learned today that 110 jobs in Salisbury are moving to western Sussex County. In his State of the State address today, Delaware Governor Jack Markell said that Purdue is following through on its plan to move its agribusiness headquarters and operations from Salisbury to western Sussex County. Purdue says there are currently 110 people employed in Salisbury, and over the next 2 years, the company says they will relocate to a new facility, again in western Sussex. The company says it will eventually employ 150 people there. Salisbury officials say this relocation should not result in any current employees losing their jobs. Now, the move is not a complete surprise. It was first announced back in 2010, but Purdue says it was put on the back burner until now. And this, of course, follows last week's surprise announcement that Labanal Power Systems is closing its Salisbury plant that employs 650 people.
Turning to the rest of Governor Markell's State of the State address, the governor proposed a number of new education initiatives. They connect to the Delaware Promise as a goal of 65% of Delaware's workforce having college degree or professional certificates by 2025. Now, Markell also addressed the need to improve the state's infrastructure. Last year, he proposed a 10-cent increase in Delaware's gas tax. It went nowhere at Legislative Hall. Today, Markell told lawmakers to come to him with ideas.
Bring me your ideas on how to fund our infrastructure responsibly, and I will work with you to pass and sign legislation to accomplish this important goal.
Coming up on the WBOC News at 7, more on today's speech and why some lawmakers are saying it was the least ambitious of Markell's time in office.
Meantime, back to Annapolis. As we mentioned, Governor Hogan off to a quick start on the job. In addition to preparing the budget, he has already put the phosphorus management tool on hold. That regulation would have forced many farmers to stop using chicken manure as fertilizer if the phosphorus content on their fields was too high. The goal was to cut phosphorus runoff to the Chesapeake Bay. Farmers are breathing a sigh of relief today, but environmentalists say this was a mistake.
We just want the best bang for our buck. You know, are we doing the right thing? How much phosphorus is this going to save the bay?
Well, it's a sad day for the Chesapeake. I mean, these regulations that will control harmful polluting phosphorus to eastern shore rivers and streams have been studied for more than a decade. They're backed by the best science, and we think the administration is moving Maryland backwards.
Governor Hogan said in a statement that the regulations were pulled for review and further public input in Maryland.
2 not guilty verdicts are handed down in Wicomico County Circuit Court. Now, the charges stem from May 3rd of last year when a fight broke out outside the Salisbury University tunnel. Curtis Adams and Abdi Gilletta were found not guilty of failure to obey a reasonable and lawful order. That's according to their attorney, Luke Rommel. Now, Curtis was also found not guilty of disorderly conduct. Their case, though, is ongoing. Rommel says Adams and Gilletta claim Salisbury police officer Justin Aida used excessive force on them that night. Now, Rommel says their civil case is still in the litigation process. A third person involved, Travis Guthrie, has had his trial will be on February 4th in Wicomico County.
A chilly afternoon across Delmarva, but we did see some sunshine earlier today. Let's take a live look over Rehoboth Beach from our Boardwalk Plaza hotel camera. Dan says this weekend will carry clouds and rain. He updates us coming up.
They didn't know each other, but now they share a once-in-a-lifetime reunion. 45 years in the making. How a high school ring discovered in Vietnam brought 2 men together here on Delmarva. That's coming up next. But first, the people, the places, our history.
WBOC is proud to serve all of Delmarva. Here's meteorologist Mike Litzniak.